Par Ashtatarashatashmad Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj Srila Gurudev Ki Jai. Nitila Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtatarashatashmad Srila Bhaktivedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Nitila Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtatarashatashmad Srila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nitila Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtatarashatashmad Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Nitila Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtatarashatashmad Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nitila Pravishta Mahabhagavat Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Nitila Pravishta Srila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai. Nitila Pravishta Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Shri Rupanu Gauriya Guru Varga Ki Jai. Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jeev Gopal Patadash Raghunath Shar Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai. Shri Sarup Damodar Rai Ramanandari Shri Gaur Parshad Vrinda Ki Jai. Nama Chai Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Kshetra Mandal Gaura Mandal Vraja Mandal Mathura Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Sarva Abhishta Pradati Giriraj Maharaj Ki Jai. Shri Radha Kunda Shama Kunda Ki Jai. Shri Muna Devi Kanga Devi Ki Jai. Shri Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi Ki Jai. Shri Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Shri Purnamasi Yogamaya Ki Jai. Shri Gopeshwar Mahadev Ki Jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Shri Vishwarup Mahotsav Ki Jai. I don't know if you say the day when Srila Prabhupada and Srila Bhakti Pragyan the day Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj took sannyasa in 1940, and the day Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada took sannyasa in 1959. That day, Ki Jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan. Namachaya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Tadir Shubha Thiravav Titi Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Samagata Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shinitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Radhikaya Priyatmane Shri Śrīmad Bhakti Vedanta Narayaniti Namine. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Śrīmate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Namo mahavadanyaya Krishna prema pradayate Krishnaya Krishna chaitanya namne gauratishe namaha. Guruve Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadalai Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tarbhaktaya Namo Namaha. Yam Pravrajantam Anupetam Apeta Krityam Dvaipayano Viraha Katara Ajuhava Putreti Tanmayataya Taravo Bhine Dustam Sarva Bhuta Hridaya Munimanatosmi Narayanam Namaskritam Narang Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet Shrinvatang Swakatha Krishna Punya Shavana Kirtana Hridantasto Hyapadrani Vidhunoti Surit Satam Nashta Prayeshvavadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatuttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki Tavai Vasmi Na Jivami Tvaya Vina Iti Vigyaya Radhe Tvam Nayamam Charanantikam Bhakta vihina aparada lakshay Kshiptashtakamaddhitarangamadhi Kripa maitvam sharanam prapana Vrinde namaste charanarvindam Vrinde namaste charanarvindam Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Rama Rama Hare Hare. Dandavat pranams Janardhan Prabhu, Ganga Didi, Gargaraji, Rukmanjari Didi, Vipul, and Raseshwari Mataji, and also Indira Mataji, who we'll watch later on. Dandavat pranams. So, what did we read about these past 3 days? The appearance of demon Vṛtrāsura. Indra kills Vishwarup and distributes his sinful reactions. Then Vishwarup's father, Twashta, he performs a sacrifice to kill Indra, and Vṛtrāsura appears with fearful features. He swallows the weapons of the demigods, and so then, being helpless, they approach the Lord. And the demigods prayed to the Lord for protection, and they said, let's take the unparalleled shelter of the Lord whom even death fears. He protected us and Lord Brahma. May the Lord be visible to us, for we cannot see him due to our independent mentality. Then the Lord appears, and then the demigods offer prayers directly to the Lord in front of him. We offer our respects to you. We cannot understand Vaikuntha. Only the topmost sannyasis can realize you. It is difficult to understand you, but contradictions in you can be resolved by considering your inconceivable potency. You inspire duality, but there is no duality in you. You are the supersoul. Devotees never give up bhakti. You are the Lord of threes. Please take another incarnation to kill Vṛtrāsura. Please relieve us by your mercy. Nothing is unknown to you. I'm just going to read 46 to 55. The Lord's response, 46. Okay, sorry. So the demigods, their last prayer was, we offer respects to the swan-like Lord, whose abode is the lake in the heart, and who observes all desires. Krishna, whose reputation is bright and who has no beginning. The Lord, who is understood by pure devotees, who enables those moving in the material worlds to attain the shelter of Krishna, and who, at the end of samsara, awards them the highest success of life. So now the Lord instructs the demigods. Hearing the sincere prayers of the demigods, the Lord was pleased and replied to them. Your prayers are full of knowledge. Through them, one can remember my exalted position and develop bhakti to me. I am pleased with you. Link. And I think this is probably Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary, I'm guessing. But he says, how unfortunate. You praised me with that knowledge, but out of foolishness, you didn't pray for bhakti. Yeah. And in Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's purports, he always gives what's happening in the background. So pure devotees don't ask anything but bhakti. O best of the demigods, although nothing is difficult for one to obtain when I am pleased with him, a pure devotee whose mind is exclusively fixed upon me does not ask me for anything but bhakti. Note: the Lord regretted that the demigods prayed for an opportunity to kill their enemy instead of unalloyed devotional service. Fools fulfill material desires. Misers, kripanas, consider material assets to be everything, and they do not know the ultimate necessity of the soul. If one awards that which is desired by such fools, he must also be considered foolish. Devotees discourage karma. A pure devotee will never instruct a foolish person to engage in fruitive activities. Like an experienced physician never encourages a patient to eat food that's injurious to his health, even if the patient desires it. The Lord gives a solution to the demigods. Approach exalted Dadhīci immediately and ask for his body, which is strong because of knowledge, vows, and austerities. Dadhīci personally assimilated the spiritual science and then delivered it to the Ashvini Kumars through the head of a horse. Therefore, the mantras are called Ashvashira. The Ashvini Kumars then became Jivan Muktas. Dadhīci gave the Narayan Kavacha to Twashta, who delivered it to his son Vishwarupa, from whom you, Indra, have received it. When the Ashvini Kumars begged for Dadhīci's body on your behalf, he will surely give it, as he knows dharma. Then Vishvakarma will prepare a thunderbolt from his bones. This thunderbolt will certainly kill Vṛtrāsura because it will be invested with my power. Link. The demigods might say, but we cannot fight with Vṛtrāsura, who has devoured everything. You should kill him personally. And then Vṛtrāsura will. So then the Lord would respond to that. Vṛtrāsura will not harm you. Vṛtrāsura is killed. You will regain your strength, weapons, and wealth. He is also a devotee and will never be envious of you. So now the battle between the demigods and Vṛtrāsura. And today we're going to read the full chapter if we get time. 7:14, I think we might be able to make it. It's almost 6,000 words. But there's conversation between the demigods and the Dadhīci Muni. Then the demigods attack the demons, and Vṛtrāsura chastises the fleeing demons. Dandavat pranams, Madhavi Didi. All right, Rup Manjari. No problem. No need to say sorry. Oh, okay. The battle between the demigods and Vṛtrāsura. As described in this chapter, after Indra attained the body of Dadhīci, a thunderbolt was prepared from Dadhīci's bones, and a fight took place between Vṛtrāsura and the demigods. Following the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the demigods approached Dadhīci Muni and begged for his body. Dadhīci Muni, just to hear from the demigods about the principles of religion, jokingly refused to relinquish his body, but for higher purposes, he thereafter agreed to give it up, for after death, the body is usually eaten by low animals like dogs and jackals. Dadhīci Muni first merged his gross body made of 5 elements into the original stock of 5 elements, and then engaged his soul at the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus he gave up his gross body. With the help of Vishvakarma, the demigods then prepared a thunderbolt from Dadhīci's bones. Armed with the thunderbolt weapon, they prepared themselves to fight and got up on the backs of elephants. At the end of Satya Yuga and the beginning of Treta Yuga, a great fight took place between the demigods and the asuras. Unable to tolerate the effulgence of the demigods, the asuras fled in battle. They fled the battle, leaving Vṛtrāsura, their commander-in-chief, to fight for himself. Vṛtrāsura, however, seeing the demons fleeing, instructed them in the importance of fighting and dying in the battlefield. One who is victorious in battle gains material possessions. and one who dies in the battlefield attains residence at one of the celestial heavens. In either way, the fighter benefits. Shripadarayanir uvacha Indrameva samadishya Bhagavan Vishwabhavana Pashyatam animeshanam Tatraivantar dade hari. Sri Shukadev Goswami said, after instructing Indra in this way, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, the cause of the cosmic manifestation, then and there disappeared from the presence of the onlooking demigods. Tatabhyachito devar rishiratarvano mahan modamana uvachedam prahasaniva bharata. O King Parikshit, following the Lord's instructions, the demigods approached Dadhīci, the son of Atharva. He was very liberal, and when they begged him to give them his body, he at once partially agreed. However, just to hear religious instructions from them, he smiled and jokingly spoke as follows. I just love how the demigods went to him and asked him, can we have your bones? Api vrindarakayuyam na janita sharirinam Sangstayam yastabhidroho dusahaschetanapaha. O elevated demigods, at the time of death, severe, unbearable pain takes away the consciousness of all living entities who have accepted material bodies. Don't you know about this pain? Jivishunam jivanam Atma preshta ihepsita ka utsahe tatam datum bhikshamanaya vishnave. In this material world, every living entity is very much addicted to his material body. Struggling to keep his body forever, everyone tries to protect it by all means, even at the sacrifice of all his possessions. Therefore, who would be prepared to deliver his body to anyone, even if it were demanded by Lord Vishnu? Purport by Srila Prabhupada. It is said, Atmanam sarvato rakshat tato dharman tato dhanam. One must protect his body by all means. Then he may protect his religious principles and thereafter his possessions. This is the natural desire of all living entities. No one wants to give up his body unless it is forcibly given away. Even though the demigods said that they were demanding Dadhīci's body for their benefit in accordance with the order of Lord Vishnu, Dadhīci superficially refused to give them his body. Shrideva uchu kimnu tar dustajam brahman pungsam bhutanukampinam bhavarvidhanam mahatam punyashloke dakarmanam. The demigods replied, O exalted Brahman, pious persons like you, whose activities are praiseworthy, are very kind and affectionate to people in general. Why can't such pious souls give for the benefit of others? They can give everything, including their bodies. Nunam sarta paro loko naveda parasankatam yadi veda nayacheta netanaha yarishvaraha. Those who are too self-interested beg something from others, not knowing of others' pain. But if the beggar knew the difficulty of the giver, he would not ask for anything. Similarly, he who is able to give charity does not know the beggar's difficulty, for otherwise he would not refuse to give the beggar anything he might want as charity. Purport. This verse describes two people, one who gives away charity and one who begs for it. A beggar should not ask charity from a person who is in difficulty. Similarly, One who is able to give charity should not deny a beggar. These are the moral instructions of the Shastra. Chanakya Pandit says, San nimite varam tyago vinashe niyate sati. Everything within this material world will be destroyed, and therefore one should use everything for good purposes. If one is advanced in knowledge, he must always be prepared to sacrifice anything for a better cause. At the present moment, the entire world is in a dangerous position under the spell of a godless civilization. The Krishna consciousness movement needs many exalted, learned persons who will sacrifice their lives to revive God consciousness throughout the world. We therefore invite all men and women advanced in knowledge to join the Krishna consciousness movement and sacrifice their lives for the great cause of reviving the God consciousness of human society. I'm sure that would attract lots of people. Come join us so you can sacrifice your life. One second. These past 3 days, I've been just getting in the habit. Well, I've been going to sleep 1 hour earlier each day. 3 days ago, I went to sleep at 3:30 in the morning. Then yesterday was 2:30 in the morning. And today was, I think, 1:30. So I'm getting better day by day. Shri Uvacha Dharmam Vashoti Kamena Yuya Me Prutyadahrita Eshava Priyamatmanam Tyajantam Santajamyaham. The great sage Dadhīci said, "Just to hear from you about religious principles, I refuse to offer my body at your request. Now, although my body is extremely dear to me, I must give it up for your better purposes, since I know that it will leave me today or tomorrow." Yodruvinatmanata nata na dharmam na yasha puman iheta bhutadhayaya na shochastavarerapi. O demigods, one who has no compassion for humanity and its suffering, and does not sacrifice his impermanent body for the higher causes of religious principles or eternal glory, is certainly pitied even by the immovable beings. Purport. In this regard, a very exalted example was set by Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. Concerning Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it is said in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam 11.534, Tyakta sudustaja surepsita raja lakshmin dharmishta arya vachasa yar agar aranyam maya mrigam daitayepsitaman vadavar vande mahapurushute charanaravindam. We offer our respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of the Lord, upon whom one should always meditate. He left his householder life, leaving aside his eternal consort, whom even the denizens of heaven adore. He went into the forest to deliver the fallen souls who are put into illusion by material energy. To accept sannyas means to commit civil suicide, but sannyas is compulsory, at least for every Brahman. But sannyas is compulsory, at least for every Brahman, every first-class human being. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had a very young and beautiful wife, and a very affectionate mother. Indeed, the affectionate dealings of his family members were so pleasing that even the demigods could not expect such happiness at home. Nevertheless, for the deliverance of all the fallen souls of the world, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took sannyas and left home when he was only 24 years old. He lived a very strict life as a sannyasi, refusing all bodily comforts. Similarly, his disciples, the 6 Goswamis, were ministers who held exalted positions in society, but they also left everything to join the movement of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Srinivasacharya says, Takta tonam ashisha mandalapati shenim sadatu chavat bhutva dina ganeshako karunaya kopena kantashito. These Goswamis left their very comfortable lives as ministers. As ministers, zamindars, and learned scholars, and joined Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement just to show mercy to the fallen souls of the world. Dina Ganeshako Karunaya. Accepting very humble lives as mendicants, wearing no more than loincloths and torn quilts, Kopan Kanta, they lived in Vrindavan and followed Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's order to excavate Vrindavan's lost glories. Similarly, everyone else with a materially comfortable condition in this world should join the Krishna consciousness movement to elevate the fallen souls. The words Bhuta Dayaya, Maya Mrgam Daitayib Sitam, and Dina Ganeshaka Karunaya all convey the same sense. These are very significant words for those interested in elevating human society to a proper understanding of life. One should join the Krishna consciousness movement, following the examples of such great personalities as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the 6 Goswamis, and before them, the great sage Dadhīci. Instead of wasting one's life for temporary bodily comforts, one should always be prepared to give up one's life for better causes. After all, the body will be destroyed. Therefore, one should sacrifice it for the glory of distributing religious principles throughout the world. Etavan avyayo dharma punya shloke rupasita yo bhuta shoka harshabhyam atma shochati rishyati. If one is unhappy to see the distress of other living beings and happy to see their happiness, his religious principles are appreciated as imperishable by exalted persons who are considered pious and benevolent. Purport. One generally follows different types of religious principles or performs various occupational duties according to the body given to him by the modes of material nature. In this verse, however, real religious principles are explained. Everyone should be unhappy to see others in distress and happy to see others happy. Atmavat sarva bhuteshu. One should feel the happiness and distress of others as his own. It is on this basis that the Buddhist religious principle of non-violence, ahimsa parama dharma, is established. We feel pain when someone disturbs us, and therefore we should not inflict pain on other living beings. Lord Buddha's mission was to stop unnecessary animal killing, and therefore he preached that the greatest religious principle is non-violence. One cannot continue killing animals and be a religious man. That is the greatest hypocrisy. Jesus Christ said, "Do not kill," but hypocrites nevertheless maintain thousands of slaughterhouses while posing as Christians. Such hypocrisy is condemned in this verse. One should be happy to see others happy, and one should be unhappy to see others unhappy. This is the principle to be followed. Unfortunately, at the present moment, so-called philanthropists and humanitarians advocate the happiness of humanity at the cost of the lives of poor animals. This is not recommended herein. This verse clearly says that one should be compassionate to all living entities. Regardless of whether human, animal, tree, or plant, all living entities are sons of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 14.4, Sarva yonishu konteya mortaya sambhavantiya tasam brahma maharyonir aham bija pradapita. It should be understood that all species of life, O son of Kunti, are made possible by birth in this material nature, and that I am the seed-giving Father. The different forms of these living entities are only their external dresses. Every living being is actually a spirit soul, a part and parcel of God. Therefore, one should not favor only one kind of living being. One should not favor only one kind of living being. A Vaishnava sees all living entities as part and parcel of God. As the Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 5:18 and 18:54, Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Gavihastini Shuni Chaiva Swapakecha Pandita Samadarshina. The humble sage, by virtue of true knowledge, sees with equal vision a learned and gentle Brahman, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog-eater outcast. Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma Na Shochati Na Kankshati Sama Sarveshu Bhuteshu Mar Bhaktim Labate Param. Bhagavad Gita 18:54. One who is transcendently situated at once realizes the Supreme Brahman and becomes fully joyful. He never laments, nor desires to have anything. He is equally disposed to every living entity. In that state, he attains pure devotional service unto me. A Vaishnava, therefore, is truly a perfect person because he laments to see others unhappy and feels joy at seeing others happy. A Vaishnava is paradukha dukhi. He is always unhappy to see the conditioned souls in an unhappy state of materialism. Therefore, a Vaishnava is always busy preaching Krishna consciousness throughout the world. Aho danyam aho kashtam parakyakshana bangurai yano pakuryad asvarter martyasa gyati vigrahai. This body, which is eatable by jackals and dogs after death, does not actually do any good for me, the spirit soul. It is usable only for a short time and may perish at any moment. The body and its possessions, its riches and relatives, must all be engaged for the benefit of others, or else they will be sources of tribulation and misery. Purport. Similar advice is also given in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam 10:22-35. Etavad janma sapalyam dehinami hadehishu pranir arther dhyavacha shreya acharanam sada. It is the duty of every living being to perform welfare activities for the benefit of others with his life, wealth, intelligence, and words. This is the mission of life. One's own body and the bodies of his friends and relatives, as well as one's own riches and everything else one has, should be engaged for the benefit of others. This is the mission of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as stated in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Lila 9:41. Bharata bhumite hoilo manushya janma jar, janma sartak kori koro para upakar. One who has taken birth as a human being in the land of India, Bharatvarsh, should make his life successful and work for the benefit of all other people. The word upakuryat means para upakar, helping others. Of course, in human society there are many institutions to help others, but because philanthropists do not know how to help others, their propensity for philanthropy is ineffectual. They do not know the ultimate goal of life, the Shreya Acharanam, which is to please the Supreme Lord. If all philanthropic and humanitarian activities were directed toward achieving the ultimate goal of life, to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they would all be perfect. Humanitarian work without Krishna is nothing. Krishna must be brought to the center of all our activities. Otherwise, no activity will have value. Shribadraya Nir Uvacha Evam Krita Vivasito Dadyan Attarvanasthanum Pare Bhagavati Brahmanyatmanam Sannayanjaho. Sri Shukadev Goswami said, Dadhīci Muni, the son of Atharva, thus resolved to give his body to the service of the demigods. He placed himself, the spirit soul, at the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and in this way gave up his gross body made of 5 elements. Purport. As indicated by the words Pare Bhagavati Brahmanyatmanam Sannayan, Dadhīci placed himself as a spirit soul at the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In this regard, one may refer to the incident of Vṛtrāsura's leaving his body as described in the first canto of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, 1:1355. Vṛtrāsura analytically divided his gross material body into 5 different elements, which it was made: earth, water, fire, air, and ether, and distributed them to the different reservoirs of these elements. In other words, he merged these 5 elements into the original Mahat Tattva. By identifying his material conception of life, he gradually separated his spirit soul from material connections and placed himself at the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The example given in this connection is that when an earthen pot is broken, the small portion of the sky within the pot is united with the large sky outside the pot. Mayavadi philosophers misunderstand this description of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Therefore, Sri Ramanuja Swami, in his book Vedanta Tattvasar, has described that this merging of the soul means that after separating himself from the material body made of 5 elements, earth, water, fire, air, ether, false ego, mind, and intelligence, the individual soul engages himself in devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead in its eternal form, Ishvara Paramakrishna, Satchidananda Vigraha, Anadir Adir Govinda, Sarva Karana Karanam. That's from Brahma Samhita, verse 1. The material cause of the material elements absorbs the material body, and the spiritual soul assumes its original position. As described by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Jiver Sarupa Hoy Krishnera Nityadas. It's Madhya Lila 20:108. The constitutional position of the living entity is that he is the eternal servant of Krishna. When one overcomes the material body through the cultivation of spiritual knowledge and devotional service, one can revive his own position and thus engage in the service of the Lord. Yatakshasu manobuddhis tattvadrigdvasta bandhana astita paramam yogam na deham buddhe gatam. Dadhīci Muni controlled his senses, life force, mind, and intelligence, and became absorbed in trance. Thus he cut all his material bonds. He could not perceive how his material body became separated from his self. Purport. The Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 8:5, Antakale chamameva smaran muktva kalevaram ya prayati samarbhavan yati nastyatra sankshaya. Whoever, at the time of death, quits his body remembering me alone, at once attains my nature. Of this there is no doubt. Of course, one must practice before one is overcome by death, but the perfect yogi, namely the devotee, dies in trance, thinking of Krishna. He does not feel his material body being separated from the soul. The soul is immediately transferred to the spiritual world. Takta deham punarjanma 19 mam eti. That's from Bhagavad Gita 4:9. The soul does not enter the womb of a material mother again, but the soul is transferred back to home, back to Godhead. This yoga, Bhakti Yoga, is the highest yoga system, as explained by the Lord himself in Bhagavad Gita 6:47. Yoginam api sarvesham margatenantaratmana shadavan bhajate yomam same yukta tamo mataha. Of all yogis, he who always abides in me with great faith, worshipping me in transcendental loving service, is intimately united in yoga and is the highest of all. The The bhakti yogi always thinks of Krishna, and therefore, at the time of death, he can very easily transfer himself to Krishna Loka without even perceiving the pains of death. Atendro vajramudyama udamya nirmitam vishvakarmana mune shakti virutsikto bhagavate jasanvita vrittadeva ganar sarvar kajendro parashobhata stuyamano muni ganais trilokyam harshayan iva. Thereafter, King Indra very firmly took up the thunderbolt manufactured by Vishvakarma from the bones of the Dadhīci. Charged with the exalted power of the Dadhīci Muni and enlightened by the power of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Indra rode on the back of his carrier, Airavata, surrounded by all the demigods, while all the great sages offered him praise. Thus he shone very beautifully, pleasing the three worlds Thus he shone very beautifully, pleasing the three worlds as he rode off to kill Vṛtrāsura. I might need to stand up, actually. I think I'm going to just continue. Vrittam avyadravachatrum asuranikayuttapai paryastam ojasa rajan kruda rudra avantikam. My dear King Parikshit, as Rudra, being very angry at Antaka Yamaraj, had formerly run toward Antaka to kill him, Indra angrily and with great force attacked Vṛtrāsura, who was surrounded by the leaders of the demoniac armies. Tatra suranama asurairana paramadaruna treta mukhe narmadayam abhavat pratame yuge. Thereafter, at the end of Satya Yuga and the beginning of Treta Yuga, a fierce battle took place between the demigods and the demons on the bank of the Narmada. Purports. Herein, the Narmada does not mean the Narmada River in India. The five sacred rivers in India, Ganga, Yamuna, Narmada, Kaveri, and Krishna, are all celestial. Like the Ganges River, the Narmada River also flows in the higher planetary systems. The battle between the demigods and the demons took place in the higher planets. The words Pratame Yuge mean in the beginning of the first millennium. That is to say, in the beginning of the Vṛtrāsura Manvantar. In one day of Brahma there are 14 Manus, who each live for 71 millenniums. The four yugas, Satya, Treta, Dwapara, and Kali, constitute one millennium. We are presently in the Manvantar of Vivasvat Manu, who is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, Imam Vivaspate Yogam, Proktavan Ahamavyayam, Vivasvan Manabe Praha. It's from Bhagavad Gita 4.1. We are now in the 28th millennium of Vivasvat Manu, but this fight took place in the beginning of Vivasvat Manu's first millennium. One can historically calculate how long ago the battle took place. Since each millennium consists of 4,300,000, we are now in the sorry. I'm getting tired. 1 second, let me sit up. Since each millennium consists of 4,300,000 years, and we are now in the 28th millennium, some 120,400,000 years have passed since the battle took place on the bank of the river Narmada. Rudrasubiradityar ashibhyam petrivahnibi marudbir ribhuvi sadar vishve devar marutpatim Trishtavajra daram shakram romanam swayash rochamanam shriya nang vrisham asura rajan mridivrita purasara. O king, when all the asuras came onto the battlefield headed by Vṛtrāsura, they saw King Indra carrying thunderbolts and surrounded by the Rudras, Vasus, Adityas, Ashwini Kumars, Pitas, Vagnis, Maruts, Ribus, Sadyas, and Vishwadevs. Surrounded by his company, Indra shone so brightly that his effulgence was intolerable to the demons. I'm just going to take it out of this view in case there's a line missing. Yeah, there was. Namuchi Shambaron Narva Dvimurdha Rishabasura Hayagriva Shankushira Viprachitir Ayomukam Puloma Vrishab Parvacha Prahitir Hetirutkala Taiteya Danava Yaksha Rakshangsi Cha Sahasrasha Sumali Mali Pramuka Karta Swara Parichada Pratishidendra Senagram Mrityorapi Durasadam Abhyardayan Asam Paranta Singhana Dena Durmada Kadabhi Parigriher Kadabhi Parigarbanai Prasamur Karatamarai Tomarai. Many hundreds and thousands of demons, demi-demons, yakshas, rakshasas, man-eaters, and others, headed by Sumali and Mali, resisted the armies of King Indra, which even death personified could not easily overcome. Among the demons were Namuchi, Shambara, Anarva, Dimurdha, Rishabha, Asura, Hayagriva, Shankushira, Viprachiti, Ayomukha, Puloma, Vrishaparva, Raheti, Heti, and Utkal. Roaring tumultuously and fearlessly like lions, these invincible demons all dressed in golden ornaments, giving pain to the demigods with weapons like clubs, bulgeons, arrows, barbed darts, mallets, and lances. Shula Parashvadai Kadgai Shatagni Bir Bushun Divi Sarvato Vakiran Shastred Astraischa Vibudarshabam. Armed with lances, tridents, axes, swords, and other weapons like shatagnis and bushundis, the demons attacked from different directions and scattered all the chiefs of the demigod armies. Vinate drishyanta sanchana sharajalai samantata punkanu punkatpatitar jyotimishva navoghanai. As the stars in the sky cannot be seen when covered by dense clouds, the demigods, being completely covered by the networks of arrows falling upon them, one after another, could not be seen. Name shastrashta varshauga yasedu surasainikan chinna siddha pate devar lagu hastai sahasrada. The showers of various weapons and arrows released to kill the soldiers of the demigods. The showers of various weapons and arrows released to kill the soldiers of the demigods did not reach them because the demigods, acting quickly, cut the weapons into thousands of pieces in the sky. Atakshinaasta shastroga girishingadrumopalai abhyai varshan surabalam chichidustang chapurvavat. As their weapons and mantras decreased, the demons began showering mountain peaks. They began showering mountain peaks, trees, and stones upon the demon soldiers. But the demigods were so powerful and expert that they nullified all these weapons by breaking them to pieces in the sky as before. Tanakshantam swasti mato nishamya shastrastra atabritanata Trumaratishadpir vividharid shringar avikshatang tatra surindra sainikan. When the soldiers of the demons, commanded by Vṛtrāsura, saw that the soldiers of King Indra were quite well, having not been injured at all by the volleys of weapons, not even by the trees, stones, and mountain peaks, the demons were very much afraid. Sarva prayasa abhavan vimogha krita krita deva ganeshu daitya krishnanakulesha yata mahatsu kshudrai prayukta ushati ruksha bacha. When insignificant persons use rough words to cast false angry accusations against saintly persons, their fruitless words do not disturb the great personalities. Similarly, all the efforts of the demons against the demigods, who are favorably situated under the protection of Krishna, were futile. Purport. There is a Bengali saying that if a vulture curses a cow to die, the curse will not be effective. Similarly, accusations made by demoniac persons against devotees of Krishna cannot have any effect. The demigods are devotees of Lord Krishna. And therefore, the curses of the demons were futile. Te swaprayasam vitatam nirikshya harava bhakta hatayuddha tarpa palayanaya mukhe visrija pate manaste darudatta satta attasaya. The asuras, who are never devotees of Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, lost their pride in fighting when they found all their endeavors futile. Leaving aside their leader even in the very beginning of the fight, they decided to flee because all their prowess had been taken away by the enemy. Vṛtrāsurang stananu manasvi pradhavata preksha papasha etat palayitam preksha balam cha bhagunam abhayena tivrena vihasavira. Seeing his army broken and all the asuras, even those known as great heroes, fleeing the battlefield out of intense fear, Vṛtrāsura, who was truly a great-minded hero, smiled and spoke the following words. Kalopapanam ruchiram manasvinam jagadavacham purusha pravira hevi prachite namache puloman maya narvam tam parameshanudvam. According to his position at the time and circumstances, Vṛtrāsura, the hero among heroes, spoke words that were much to be appreciated by thoughtful men. He called out to the heroes of the demons, O Viprachiti, O Namuchi, O Puloma, O Maya, O Anarva, O and Shambhara, please hear me and do not flee. Sorry, I wasn't doing a Vṛtrāsura voice. Chatasya dhruva eva sarvata pratikriya yasya nacheha klipta loko yashas chata tato yadi hyamun ko nama mrityum na vrinekta yuktam. Vṛtrāsura said, all living entities who have taken birth in this material world must die. Surely no one in this world has found any means to be saved from death. Even if Providence has not provided a means to escape it, under the circumstances, death being inevitable. If one can gain promotion to the higher planetary systems and be always absorbed here and there. Sorry, what did I just read? Under the circumstances, death being inevitable, if one can gain promotion to the higher planetary systems and be always celebrated here by dying a suitable death, what man will not accept such a glorious death? Purport. If by dying one can be elevated to the higher planetary systems and be ever famous after his death, who is so foolish that he will refuse such a glorious death? Similar advice was also given by Krishna to Arjuna. My dear Arjuna, the Lord said, do not desist from fighting. If you gain victory in the fights, you will enjoy a kingdom. And even if you die, you'll be elevated to the heavenly planets. Everyone should be ready to die while performing glorious deeds. A glorious person is not meant to meet death like cats and dogs. Okay, this is the last verse. Sorry guys, I've been falling asleep really bad. Tvau samata viha mrityu durapo yad brahma sandaranaya jitasu kalevaram yoga rato vijahyar yad agranir vira shaye nivrittaha. There are two ways to meet a glorious death, and both are very rare. One is to die after performing mystic yoga, especially bhakti yoga, by which one can control the mind and living force, and die absorbed in thought to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The second is to die on the battlefield, leaving the army and never showing one's back. These two kinds of death are recommended in the Shastra as glorious. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 6th canto, 10th chapter of the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, entitled The Battle Between the Demigods and Vṛtrāsura. Sorry guys, oh that was really bad. Anyhow, I'm gonna go to sleep early tonight. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. So, in this next chapter, chapter 11, we'll read Vṛtrāsura chastises the demigods, Vṛtrāsura fights the demigods, Vṛtrāsura chastises Indra, Vṛtrāsura instructs Indra, and then Vṛtrāsura offers exemplary prayers. And these prayers are one of the most prominent, glorious features of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. I'll find there's a couple quotes in Madhurya Kadambini talking about these 4 prayers of Vṛtrāsura. And they're prayers that our acharyas quote all the time. In our Puri Mat, they made us memorize these 4 verses. So that's going to be really nice, going over that. All right. Jai Shri Guru Gauranga Gandharvika Giridhari Shri Shri Radha Vinod Bihari Ju ki jai. Shri Govinda Gopinath Madan Mohan Ju ki jai. Nitya Vishnu Vishnupad Ashtara Shatashma Chila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Gosai Maharaj Shri Gurudev ki jai. Nitya Vishnu Vishnupad Ashtara Shatashma Chila Bhakti Vedanta Vaman Gosai Maharaj ki jai. Nitya Vishnu Vishnupad Ashtara Shatashma Chila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Nitya Vishnu Vishnupad Ashtara Shatashma Chila Bhakti Vedanta Keshav Gosai Maharaj ki jai. Nitya Vishnu Vishnupad Ashtara Shatashma Chila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Gosai Prabhupada ki jai. Nitya Vishnu Mahabhagavat Srila Goraksharas Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Nitya Vishnu Srila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki jai. Nitya Vishnu Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Shri Rupanu Gauriya Guru Varga ki jai. Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Jeev Gopala Patadas Raghunath Shari Gosai Prabhu ki jai. Shri Sarup Damodar Rai Ramananda Rishi Gaur Parshada Vrinda ki jai. Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur ki jai. प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासरी गौर भक्त वृंद की जाय। श्री क्षेत्र मंडल गौर मंडल व्रज मंडल मथुरा वृंदावन धाम की जाय। सर्व अभिष्ट प्रदात गिरिराज महाराज की जाय। श्री राधा कुंड श्याम कुंड की जाय। श्री मुन देवी गंगा देवी की जाय। श्री तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी की जाय। श्री भक्ति देवी की जाय। श्री पूर्णमास्य गमाय की जाय। श्री गोपेश्वर महादेव की जाय। श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जाय। श्री नामाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। तृतीय शुभ तिरुभाव की जय. On this calendar, it says Srila Bhakti Vidyamparti Goswami Maharaj's disappearance day is today. So, anyways, Nitya Vishnu Om Vishnupad Ashatara Shatashma Srila Bhakti Vidyamparti Goswami Maharaj ki jai. तृतीय शुभ तिथि की जय. श्री हरि नाम संकीर्तन की जय. अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय. समागत गौर भक्त वृंद की जय. विश्वरूप महोत्सव की जय. श्रीनिताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल. वृंदाय तुलसी देवाय प्रियाय केशवाचार्य. कृष्ण भक्ति प्रद देवी सत्यवताय नमो नमः. वंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः. Dandavat pranams. Haribol. Thank you for your patience. That must have been really annoying hearing me like slur my words. And anyways, I'm just grateful that you stuck with me. Haribol. Jai Srila Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Goswami Maharaj's disappearance ki jai. Haribol. Dandavat pranams, everybody.